lately worm of Spindleston, Heugh, and Banbury Castle once lived a king who had a fair wife and 2 children. A son named Childwind and a daughter named Margaret. Childwind went forth to seek his fortune, and soon after he had gone the queen his mother died. The king mourned her long and faithfully, but one day while he was hunting he came across a lady of great beauty, and fell so much in love with her that he determined to marry her. So he sent word home that he was going to bring a new queen to Banbury Castle. Princess Margaret was not very glad to hear of her mother's place being taken, but she did not repine, but did her father's bidding, and at the appointed day came down to the castle gate with the keys all ready to hand over to her stepmother. Soon the procession drew near, and the new queen came towards Princess Margaret, who bowed low and handed her the keys of the castle. She stood there with blushing cheeks and eyes on ground, and said, "Oh, welcome, father dear, to your halls and bowers, and welcome to you, my new mother, for all that's here is yours." And again she offered the keys. One of the king's knights who had escorted the new queen, cried out in admiration, "Surely this northern princess is the loveliest of her kind." At that the new queen flushed up and cried out, "At least your courtesy might have accepted me." And then she muttered below her breath, "I'll soon put an end to her beauty." That same night the queen, who was a noted witch, stole down to the lonely dungeon wherein she did her magic, and with spells 3 times 3, and with passes 9 times 9 she cast Princess Margaret under her spell. And this was her spell: "I weird ye to be a lately worm, and borrowed shall ye never be, until Childwind, the king's own son, come to the Heugh and thrice kiss thee, until the world comes to an end, borrowed shall ye never be." So Lady Margaret went to bed a beauteous maiden, and rose up a lately worm. And when her maidens came in to dress her in the morning, they found coiled up on the bed a dreadful dragon, which uncoiled itself and came towards them, but they ran away shrieking. And the lately worm crawled and crept, and crept and crawled till it reached the hook-armed rock of the Spindlestone, round which it coiled itself, and lay there basking with its terrible snout in the air. Soon the country round about had reason to know of the lately worm of Spindleston, Heugh, for hunger drove the monster out from its cave, and it used to devour everything it could come across. So at last they went to a mighty warlock and asked him what they should do. Then he consulted his works and his familiar, and told him, "The lately worm is really the Princess Margaret, and it is hunger that drives her forth to do such deeds. Put aside for her 7 kine, and each day as the sun goes down, carry every drop of milk they yield to the stone trough at the foot of the Heugh, and the lately worm will trouble the country no longer. But if you would that she be born to her natural shape, and that she who bespelled her be rightly punished, send over the seas for her brother, Childwind." All was done as the warlock advised. The lately worm lived on the milk of the 7 kine, and the country was troubled no longer. But when Childwind heard the news, he swore a mighty oath to rescue her sister and revenge her on her cruel stepmother, and 30 of his men took the oath with him. Then they set to work and built a long ship, and its keel they made of the rowan tree, and when all was ready, they out with their oars and pulled sheer for Banbury Keep.